Welcome to Hunter and Sphinx, Chapter 15. As we left our heroes, they are just left Sunny Hill on their journey to Northwatch. And as they begin to talk, they discuss the information that Tian managed to piece together from her time in Sunny Hill. So, I have learned some interesting bits of information about the history of this continent. Oh, do tell. We have been woefully short on that up till now. Indeed. You see, it seems that the current history, as things are, has only been going on for 500 to 700 years. Well, that kind of meshes with the general lack of technology and advancement in this place, so yeah, makes sense. So, if I don't find out what happened? Somewhat. You see, it appears that somewhere back there, 700 years, there was a giant magical cataclysm that washed over this continent, and all of the beasts, as they were changed by this magical cataclysm. Thus, we have all of these beast creatures instead of humans anywhere. There may have been humans at some point, but there's no record of them anymore. And pretty much everything was wiped out as it was. And all these creatures, they developed the magical abilities and intelligence, and they began to create a culture of their own. And so you have all these kingdoms that popped up of various areas in the center, and all the wild, dangerous areas on the outer four corners seem to be just of the more unintelligent creatures. Although the demons may have some intelligence in their ranks, but they do their own thing and only launch attacks once in a while towards the kingdoms on the southwest corner. So you have all these young kingdoms who seem to work reasonably well together after finding out that it was best to join forces to resist the more dangerous areas' advancement into the center area, where the more civilized kingdoms were forming. So far, there seems to be no real major wars in the last few hundred years anyway between the kingdoms. They have existed in relative cooperation because of the constant threat from the outer dangerous areas. So, I guess that means as long as we stay in the center, we should be reasonably safe, except for from whatever roaming wildlife and creatures that exist out there. Indeed. I wonder, though. I wish a horse would come close enough I could talk to it. It would be very convenient if we could befriend them. Yeah, no, I definitely wouldn't mind riding a friendly horse if one ever deemed us worthy to carry. Definitely be better than walking everywhere. Goodness, I haven't walked this much since basic training back in my Spartan training days. Sheesh. It's a good thing these boots are good. I'd be calloused like crazy. So, I've also, since we started this walk to Northwatch, I seem to be perceiving something new with magic. Oh, do tell. Sounds kind of vague. It is. It's a vague feeling that there's more to magic than just using runes and learning, various spells that way. That you can accomplish things with magic with intention. Intention. So you mean just kind of like willing something to be, and it will be that kind of intention? Maybe something. Anyhow, I want to do an experiment tonight. Okay, and this requires my cooperation somehow? Yes. Specifically, I want your bow for the night. You want my bow? Okay, well, I'm not using it while I'm sleeping, so go for it. You can have my bow for the night. Thank you. This will be interesting if it works, and you will like it very much. Okay, can't wait to see what you come up with. And so as they camped out for the night on the trail, Tian did indeed hold on to the hunter's bow. And in the morning, they left the trail to head up onto a nearby plateau to look for a place to test her new found experiment. As they wandered off through the rolling hills and on up onto the plateau, Hunter's bow was unstrung, but it glowed slightly in Tian's hand as she held it. And then finally they reached an open area with a distant boulder, series of boulders where they could use as targets. Tian held the bow aloft and put her hands where the string would be, if there was a string. There was no string. It had been unstrung. And as she held the bow in the shooting pose and pulled back where the string used to be, the magical light formed. So there was a magical string and a magical light where the arrow would be. Tian paused for a moment, considered her next course of action, and then in rapid succession fired 3 magical arrows at the boulder. First one lightning, then fire and ice. All hit boulders in her aiming path. Whoa! Tian, that's awesome. You turned my bow into a magic bow? Yes, I did. My successful experiment is brilliant. Indeed, this is awesome. I want to try. Definitely. So, how do I make it work? Well, you take your bow, and have the feeling you've learned Shadow Step in your time at the Shadow Enclave, right? Yep. Learn Shadow Step. You know that feeling as you channel magical energy into your Shadow Step spell to improve the length and power of your Shadow Step. Right, yeah. Well, it's like that. You channel your magical energy into the bow you're holding as you're pulling on the string. And for me, I decided to be fancy, because I'm the Sphinx, and made 3 different magical arrows for my launch attack spells there. But you can just do a simple magic arrow that doesn't require learning any extra fire, ice, and whatever else. You can just launch a magical arrow with your basic magical abilities, and you should be able to aim at your target, and it should find it, regardless of whether you aim directly at it or not. But you should be able to will your magic arrow into your target as you pour magic energy into it and release. Sounds fascinating. All right, let's go. As the hunter did indeed pull back on the invisible string, which of course shimmered and appeared as he poured magical energy into his arrow that appeared. He launched it at a boulder, intentionally aiming wide of it, but willing it onto its target, and sure enough, his magic arrow did indeed hit the boulder. Not with as much power as Tian's, of course, but still, was a very fast and quick flight path to its target that should be able to hit all but the most agile of targets. That is awesome. Way better than carrying around arrows. Well, as long as I have enough magic reserves to be able to fire them, I suppose. Yes, you do have fairly quick magic refill, so you should be able to continuously fire off magical arrows of a reasonable impact. Although, we may run into some enemies eventually that are resistant to magic, and you may want to maintain some physical arrows to be able to deal with those creatures. But yeah, we should not be able to not have to carry around a huge amount of arrows anymore, which is nice. Awesome. Let's go find something actual to test it on. Indeed. And as they continued on, well, where are we at here? They hit a couple more rocks for target practice, and eventually saw what looked like a rather large rabbit in the distance. There's a target for you. Sure enough, the hunter launched a magic arrow at it. It hit the target, but it just looked at them and made a chittering, angry noise at them and kept doing what it was doing. That's interesting. You were just talking about something resistant to magic, and that didn't look like it phased it one little bit. Indeed. I know what these are. I learned about them. They are null bunnies. Null bunnies? Well, that's a curious name, but I suppose it makes sense if they're very resistant to magic. Yeah, look at them. They're about, waist high, and they have a very large, pointy claw on their hind feet that is kind of reminiscent of an old Ursold dinosaur called a Deinonychus, or however you pronounce it. It's a terrible claw thing. It was a large dinosaur, bigger than a raptor, back in the ancient Earth history. Yeah, they have a big claw like those. They're kind of carnivorous, more omnivorous, really. They eat all sorts of things, but it can be dangerous in large numbers. So let's have some fun. Keep shooting at them, as many as you see, for a while, and I have a plan. Okay. So Hunter began launching annoying magic arrows at the null bunnies, who got angry and irritated at these annoying little bolts of energy coming at them, which didn't really hurt much, but they still irritated them. And they began gathering more of them, began chittering and calling to each other. And soon they formed a rather large group surrounding Hunter and Tien, beginning to close in, chittering angrily, while the Hunter kept poking at them with his magic arrows. And Tien used an earth magic spell to raise the ground up they were standing on in a circle around them, up a foot. And then used a water spell to create a little bit of water surrounding their slightly raised plateau. All the null bunnies began to close in, chittering angrily. Kind of reminds me of that scene where the dodos closed in on the creatures and said, "Doom on you, doom on you." Of course, they can't talk, these null bunnies, so they can't say "doom on you," but it would have been cute if they could. And as the null bunnies closed in, Tien told Hunter, "All right, quickly, jump on my back and don't touch the ground." Uh-oh, you can hold me? Yep, just do it quick. So Hunter jumped on Tien's back, and she stomped her foot down onto the ground, creating a ground electricity that shot out through the water and electrocuted all the null bunnies through the pads of their feet, which were not protected by their magically resistant hide. And all of the Null Bunnies twitched and fell dead. Perfect. My plan is brilliant. Well, I gotta admit, that was pretty creative. Pretty creative thought you had there. I like it. So let's start skinning these suckers here. We can definitely use their hide there. It's got to be able to make some decent armor out of this stuff. Yes, indeed. Let us harvest their hides for when we get to a bigger town. We'll have somebody make you a cloak or something. Is your magic resistance? Not so good. Yeah, no, I definitely can't compare in the magic resistance department with you, so it'd be nice if you didn't have to shield me quite so much there in combat against a magical opponent. Yes, in the cloak of this, you should be able to resist fairly powerful magical attacks without any trouble. Excellent. So, as they were just finishing up skinning all of the Null Bunny hides, they detected some movement at the far edge of the plateau they were on. Tien got a little spidey sense of danger tingle and then began looking closely, using her focused gaze to see further, see what was coming towards them. And she said, oh, Hunter, we got an interesting enemy approaching. Oh, what do you got? It's a Caneloth. Caneloth? What the heck is a Caneloth? Caneloth is kind of a dog-shaped creature the size of a horse, with the hairless body, bulging eyes, very large, snappy jaws, and it absorbs magic. Absorbs magic. Well, that seems to be sort of a creature that was designed to hunt you. Yes, it does seem to be something rather dangerous to me. So what I'm going to say is you can fire a couple magic arrows at it just to see how it behaves, and then pull out your plasma rifle if it gets within 50 meters, because I don't want it getting near me. Alright, so the hunter fired off a couple magical arrows, which reached their target and just fizzled into nothingness as the Caneloth absorbed them. And the hunter fished his plasma rifle out of his pack. Tien launched a fireball, and that was absorbed. And she launched a lightning attack, and that got absorbed. 50 meters, fireball, yep. And she launched an air cutter, and that got absorbed. Is it getting bigger? I think it gets bigger and stronger when it absorbs lots of magic. So this should be interesting. It definitely was looking bigger as it got closer, not just because it was getting closer. So then Tien conjured up a giant ice lance and launched it at her target. Of course, ice lance wasn't magical energy. It was created with magical energy, but it was a physical ice cube in a very long, pointy shape, which was not absorbed and instead pierced through the foreleg of Caneloth as it ran towards him, causing the Caneloth to face plant painfully into the ground. Caneloth began snapping at the ice protruding from its front leg and broke off the long ice spear and began coming towards them again. Tien decided to try a different tactic and launch 4 simultaneous air cutters at it. And 3 of them were absorbed by the Caneloth, but one of them took off its back leg, causing it to stumble again. That's it. Enough of this experiment with this thing. Too dangerous till I get closer. And with that, Tien launched a very intense fire spell, Conflagration, which enveloped the Caneloth in searing flames. And the Caneloth was quickly barbecued by the intense heat all around it that it could not absorb quickly enough as it was roasted rather quickly. Huh. Well, that worked. Very curious. Yeah, that opponent is seems to be pretty dangerous. If there would be a lot of them coming at you, you'd have to really be careful with that. Indeed. I wonder though, why is a Canoloth out here? Those are creatures of the magic blight. They should not be out this far. It seemed to be making a beeline for us too, as if it was tracking us, following us, searching for us, something like that. He thinks perhaps I may have caused an issue by unleashing all that magic back at Sunny Hill. So you think maybe you kind of lit a signal fire for all those a bunch of Canoloths to come this way, and that's just the one that made it through. All the guards at the border must have been wondering what the heck all the Canoloths were charging across the border for. Yep, I may have caused them an issue. Eeks. Good thing they don't know it's me. Yeah, so if we ever journey to is it the Kingdom of Dervish that was northwest along that border there, and there may be a couple of tombstones that you are the cause of. Ew, don't say that. That's not nice. True enough, though, magic is awesome, but consequences of using it without control is, well, obviously there could be unintended consequences that we don't know until much later. Indeed. I have to be careful in the future with it. So, I personally don't want to stick around if there's more of those things coming. So, why don't we take a bit of a risk and teleport to a town near to North Watch. I don't really want to go directly into it because there may be powerful magic users that would detect somebody teleporting into the city. But maybe the little town just to the west of it should be sufficient. Use Farsight and see what town is there and teleport into an alley back there, and maybe we'll find a decent leather worker in the area. Yeah, I don't want to hang around here either. And I definitely don't want to carry all that Null Bunny hide with me anyway. Lazy hunter, lazy hunter. Yeah. You try carrying all these Null Bunny hides. See how much you like it. All right. Let's go to that little town there, just to the west of Northwatch. So, Tien found a spot in a darkened alley and teleported them there. And quickly able to find a leather worker that indeed could make a suitable cloak for the hunter. Well, they found a room above a tavern and decided to set up shop, as it were, there for a little while Tien absorbed knowledge, and they waited for hunter's new cloak to be ready before they continued on their journey. After all, it was going to be another day at least before it was going to be ready for him. And thus ends another chapter 15 of The Hunter and the Sphinx. We'll see you again for chapter 16.